Welcome everybody to this lesson, CSS Attribute Selectors. And what this is this gives us the ability to style elements or HTML elements that have specific attributes, right? So it helps us to style elements that have specific attributes. That is what CSS Attribute Selectors help us to do. And so the attribute selector is used to select the element that has the attribute that we are looking for. So we are going to take a look at some examples and maybe this will make it clearer. So let's delve right into the code. So I have a simple HTML here. The only thing I have is a bunch of uh, hrefs, anchors, links, right? Going to three different pages, and I'm using the hash because I just want to have a test links. But when you want to do this, you have to put an exact uh, link in here. Okay, so we have this, right? So if I refresh it, the only thing I see is the links, right? Good. What the attribute selector does is, and we are going to style this, right? So it allows us to be able to select an attribute, and these are so target is an attribute, href is an attribute, right? It allows us to be able to select attributes and be able to style it based on if the element has the attribute or not, right? So in the style section, I am going to say I'm looking for a, and I'm going to use the syntax that we learned. The selector is going to be in this square. I don't know if I should call it braces, but yeah, in this kind of braces, and I'm going to put in there the name of the attribute. So let's select this target attribute, right? So every anchor that has a target attribute, right? So I'm gonna say target, and then I can now style it. So how this reads is uh for for all the A's or the anchors that have a target attribute specified. So this first one is A, it's an anchor, but it doesn't have a target attribute, right? So it's gonna ignore it. So first, let's just use a background color so we can see. And let's set this to brown. Okay, so this is looking at these two because these two have the target attribute. So if I refresh this, you can see that these two have the background color set. Going further, and one other thing that we can do is we can be more specific and then give a value to the target, right? So this target has a value underscore blank. This target has a value underscore top, right? So if I wanted to be more specific, I could say, let's do, sorry, opening and closing. I'm saying target, right? And the equal to sign, and then the value. So if I wanted the underscore blank, right. So now I can style just this differently and say I want the background color to be cornflower blue, right? So if I refresh this again, you can see that the one with underscore blank is now cornflower blue. One other way we can, something else we can do is, what if we have a value that has a specific word that we want to target. So let me create two more links right here, and I'm going to call this uh, word, and I'm going to call this new word, right? Or maybe this is because there's no target called word. So let's use a different example here. So this is a better example to use. I have four images, right? And I have an image of an Audi, right? Wow. And if any of you can get me one of these vehicles, I will be elated, right? I have a Mercedes-Benz, an Audi, and a Mercedes, right? Okay. And what I'm doing in this HTML is I'm just showing all these images, right? And I have specified the title uh, of Audi Salon, BMW Salon, title Mercedes Salon, Mercedes. This is not a salon, so I just said Mercedes. Okay, so now if I wanted to just look for all the elements that have an attribute that contains a salon, I could do that, right? And that is the importance of using the attribute selector. So the way we do it is I could come here. I have my title because that is the name of the attribute. And instead of just doing equal to and then putting in the salon, right? Because it's not a specific name, right? If I say salon, it's going to be looking for a title that matches salon exactly, right? Just like the target is equal to underscore blank, it's going to be looking at exactly. But because I'm looking for something that contains salon, I use the tilde sign. So, and then I can now style this. Okay. So let me just say I want to put a border around this, and maybe I shouldn't style it just yet. I should just refresh this so we see how it looks like. Good. So now I can add a background color or maybe a border because I don't want a background. Let's add a border to these images. I'm gonna say 7 pixel solid red. Okay. So if I refresh this, you see the first three will match our selection because those ones have salon in there. And this one that is not a salon doesn't have the border rounded. We can also use another type, but this type of attribute value will select elements uh, that starts with a specified value, right? So for this one, which has the tilde equal, you just have to have the value in the attribute. So once there's a salon in there, it's gonna match. What if we wanted to start with Mercedes, say Mercedes? So all those with Mercedes, starting with Mercedes would match. Then you have to use another type. So what that does is it's it will select all the elements uh, that begins with Mercedes, right? So let's have an example of that. Good. So same thing. So I'm gonna have my title, and normally I'll just do Mercedes, but with this syntax, and maybe I should just bring this up to make it consistent. Because I'm not just looking for one with Mercedes. I want those that start with Mercedes. And I haven't spelled it right. I need to add the, and if anybody can tell me what that bar, the name of this symbol, be my guest, right? So if I refresh this, I have no change, right? So let's now change the border to 7 pixel solid green. Okay, so when I refresh this, and oh, that's because that wasn't spelled right. You can see that it's, and let me refresh this so you can see that only the last one matched because only the last one has Mercedes, right? As the first word. If we wanted this one to match, the words should be separated with a dash. And that is what I wanted you to see visually before I refresh this. So now If you separate the words by a dash, then this would match because this is the first word, this is the first word, and this is separated by a dash, right? So that is the only condition that multiple words in the value would match, right? So if I wanted this to match, it has to be a dash in between the Mercedes and the Salon. So if I refresh this, now the Mercedes matches also, right? So these two have a Mercedes as the first word within as in the value, right, of the title. So that is how that matched. So again, just to be absolutely clear, the value that you put in there when you are looking at this combination has to be a whole word, as in like Mercedes is a whole word, or it has to be the word followed by a hyphen, right? Like the Mercedes hyphen Salon. So that are the two conditions for the match. Yeah, but there is another type that you can use to match any values that begin with a specific word. It doesn't have to be a whole word or it doesn't have to have the hyphen. It just has to begin with that word, right? So, for example, and I'm going to just use this again, right? So, if we just wanted to, and if there was a space here, let's just say there was a space here. So, if I refresh this, this would not match this, right? But if I just wanted to match MER, right? I could do it. I could say I'm looking for title equal to MER, right? And then the character that makes this match will be the, and where can I find it on my system? Great. So this is the symbol equal to, and then whatever you want to. So it has to begin the value, but it doesn't have to be a whole word. It just has to begin the value. So I could use Mercedes, uh, and it's still gonna match. These two would match because they all begin with MER, right? So if I decide to change the border again, okay, so I'm gonna set it to 7 pixel solid blue, right? And I refresh this, you see these two matched because these two have the MER as the beginning of the value. So that's the difference. With this one, uh, you would have to have Mercedes as a whole word, or you would have to have hyphenated if it's multiple words, right, for them to match, right? For this one, the salon, right? If you wanted this to match, it should have salon in there, right? So good. So now let's look at another example. So we've been talking about values that begin with a specific word. What if we wanted to target values of an attribute that ends in a specific word? It doesn't have to be a whole word. It can be part of a word, whatever, some characters or whatever. So let's do that. What if we wanted to target all the images that end with maybe not salon, maybe the lawn, right? Just lawn. Right? This doesn't have lawn, but just LON, right? So we could do that also, right? So same thing, you select your attribute, which is title, and then equal to, and then this time just the lawn, right? And you have it there. But now the special character that makes this match is called the very famous dollar sign, right? So I have my dollar sign here. And then now I can put, let's try and have a border here. And so it's going to be 7 pixels. It's going to be solid. And it's going to be, uh, let's see what values are available to us. Let's say dark magenta. Okay. So now when I refresh this, I see that the first three matched because they have some sort of LON at the end of their values. So that is the difference. There is one, we always talked about, okay, begins with a specified value, or begins, it has to be a whole word or not, or ends with a specified value or word. It mustn't be a whole word or part of a word or whatever. What if we just wanted the value to contain a specific value, right? So maybe we just wanted it to contain DES, right? Or we wanted to contain maybe something and CED, right? So this is not the beginning, it's not the end, it's somewhere in the middle. But we want to target anything that contains CED, right? So that we can also do, right? And I absolutely know that I'm using things that you might never use in real life, but this is just to show you that you can target an attribute value using beginning, end, and middle values words. Okay, so now let's try and target anything that has CED in the value, right? So now we use the same technique. So same title, and then I'm gonna use my equal to. This time I'm gonna use just CED, not CDE, CED, and then the special character that would make this work is called the this, right? Which is the star equal to, and then you have the word that you want to match. So the value would be put in, right? So I have this and I have this. So that is the, and you could do this, and you could also, all these ones that we did, you could put it in, yep, quotation. That is the more formal way to do it. Okay, so I'm not going to do it for all of them, or maybe let me do it so that it's there, right? Good. And then finally, I have this. Okay, so if I refresh it, no difference. Good. So I have the title should be star equal and then the value. So now I want to change the border to 7 pixel solid, and I think I'm running out of colors. Forest green. Okay. So now when I refresh it, I'm expecting CED. It's only in the last two. So if I refresh this, I have the last two being colored differently. We can use this to style forms also, and pretty much anything. So let's just take one quick example of styling forms, uh, just to highlight. So I have this form right here. It's just a form with first name, last name, right? And input type and a button right here, right? So if I refresh it, you have your simple form right here. Good. So let's go about the styling, right? So if I wanted to style the first name, the inputs, right, and then the last name differently, right? And I took this quick example from w3schools.com, right? So now I want to style these two differently, right? So how do I go about doing it? I have to select the input, right? And then I have to select the attribute, which is type, and then the value text, because you can see that, and maybe let me finish this. You can see that both these two types have a value of text, right? So then I can just put in I can just style this differently, right? So I can say I want the width to have a block. Oh, sorry, what did I just say? 200 pixels width. I want it to be block display, so it takes the whole line. And then let me create some margin. Let's say 10 or 10 pixels, right? And then finally, I can now color it with hot pink. Okay, so just so we can see, now you can see that these two were styled differently because they matched the type, right? Again, I can also add maybe a background color, and what would go, maybe this, I don't know. Okay, so that is how we targeted just the inputs, right? If we wanted to target the button, same thing, right? It's gonna be an input, but this time the type, and you guessed it, is what? Button, right? And then now you can set a width of 1/5. What did I set for this? 200 pixels. And you can set your margin to say 10 pixels and 10 pixels. And then finally your display to block. Good. So now if I refresh this again, you can see that the 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 style only affected the button. And maybe I can add a background color to this. Okay, so that is how we use uh on we use this form of styling and selection on your form elements. So thank you guys for watching and see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.